Welcome back everybody, back in the shed with the 66 Mustang, and yesterday the skin arrived for the right hand door, and I just want to go through and show you some detail on that might help you out if you're doing one on your car. If you just come inside, that's the company that makes the door skin. That's the company that made the roof, Dynacorn International. It's American, and they are supplied to me from Harry's Classic Parts in Sydney. And that's Mr. Harry. Great people to deal with. Alrighty. Now the door has been also media blasted. We decided to get it media blasted because it was a little bit too far gone just to try and treat it by hand, and that was done by a local company here in Hervey Bay, and great guys, Mike and Jamie, they helped us out with that, and that's them here in Hervey Bay. Great guys to deal with, fantastic. Had a look at his E-Type Jag, V12, right hand drive E-Type Jag he's got. Lovely, lovely motor car. Anyway, you can see the quality of the media blasting there. They've done a great job. Okay, back up on here on the table, we've got the door skin. So that's the old one there. You can see the rust mark down the bottom and the big rust corrosion and everything around the edges. It's just too far gone to. There's more hours spent repairing this than there is in actually getting a door skin and replacing it. Mind you, you need a good door skin, and this one is a good door skin from Dynacorn. The things that you need to be aware of and what is necessary to be done is this is the quarter glass window bracket. So that has to come off the old skin, and you have to, so you can see by the lines, I've taken measurements to make sure it goes in exactly the right place. So that had to be done, but you've also got to make sure that your moulding fits in the holes where it's supposed to go. So we can see there that the brackets line up there. So I've done that check, and we can move this skin out of the way now. Oh, sorry, no, there was one other thing. Measurements. I've had door skins in the past, and HG panel van is one of the examples, and you can see in the videos prior that are on my list. We did door skins on the HG panel van, and they turned out to be 5-6 millimeters too big. So you have to actually make that measurement before you put the skin on, because the last thing you want to have to be doing is unpeeling the skin on a front line edge or a back line edge to make the adjustment so it fits the car. There was an overlap actually on the gaps, so we had to trim 6 mil off those door skins. So I'm going to check this one to make sure that we have a very similar measurement. They don't have to be exact, but definitely not 12 mils out. So we measure from this line here on the inside, and at that measurement there we've got approximately 1230. So we measured the inside of the aftermarket door skin on the same line, on the belt line there. And we have 1230. That's a really good sign. You need to make sure that that's happening, otherwise we go to put it on the door frame. I'm going to fold the edges temporarily and put the door on the car so that we can check the gaps up against the guard and the door quarter panel, the rear quarter panel, to make sure that we've got everything in place before we go locking it all off. So we'll just get this door skin out of the way, get the old one out of the way. The other measurement you can make to be sure is you can look at the bottom line, this line here. So we'll check that one as well. We have 1170 on the aftermarket skin. And on the old skin we have 1170. Ka-ching. That's what we like to see. That way we don't have to go mucking around with flattening edges out and refolding them. and taking millimetres off the skin edge. Get this old skin out of the way. And this is our door frame back in again. And with these door frames you've got to kind of give them a bit of a kick to tuck them in underneath this top lip here where the return sweep is. So that one's locked in there. This one's a little bit tighter. I just use the screwdriver on the edges. You can easily put your screwdriver in gently to make it click underneath where it's supposed to go. And you can see there's the old brass weld that actually locked the skin in from the original factory door skin. So we'll get that in there, and we can put a clamp on this edge. These are the clamps that I use because they've got the shape to actually get in behind the actual skin edge. Actually, I won't lock that one in just yet. We'll just check the bottom. We'll do the bottom one first. Need the screwdriver again just to manipulate the edge in there. Doesn't take much, you don't have to put much pressure on it. You can see that's dropped in nicely there. We'll get a clamp on this edge. And a clamp on this edge. You can see it's bulging out here a little bit. That's just because the bottom of the door frame's sprung a bit. It's not sitting where it's supposed to sit. But that's easily remedied with the clamp as well. Find that will just squeeze into position nicely there, and it's seated where it's supposed to sit. So now that we've got a bit of an idea that the measurements are okay, we're going to actually semi-fold this edge so that we can place the door on the car and just see where the skin's sitting. Because this skin is being left loose until we actually lock it into place, we can do the measurements on the car. It might need a twist here and there, or it might need to move one way or the other, and we can do that before we lock it in. Once you've locked it in, obviously that's the end of it. So we're just using what they call a door dolly. We're using the flat side of it. We'll use the flat side of it underneath the base of the door skin. And you'll go along with your hammer and say, okay, there's special tools that you can buy, pneumatic tools, but not everybody's going to go and spend money on that sort of thing just to do a door skin on one car. So I'm just showing you with the basic tools so that anybody can do it at home and you can see what's going on. So we've got the planishing hammer, flat face, and you're tapping that edge, and I mean tapping it, you're not belting it, in increments across the full length of this. You don't want to be banging it over and trying to crush this in one go. So you can see we've just moved it, say 3 millimeters or 4 millimeters, just to get it to start to lock in. That's all you need to do for each pass. If you go cranking that over and trying to squash it in one go, that's when you end up with problems on the other side of the door skin, which you have to rectify at a later date. That's the last thing you want to be doing, is putting strips of filler in the edge because you've got too aggressive on folding the skin over. So it's just gently all the way along. I'm going to skip around the clamp for now, which won't hurt. a little bit every pass. You can release that clamp now because the skin is still sitting now, because this has got it locked in on this edge. It's sitting where it's supposed to sit. We can start to close this area off. Fold the corners over a little bit tighter so I can take these clamps off. You can see now that that door skin is still held in position because of this edge. It gives me room to go around the corner. Same deal again. Little run all the way up, little run all the way back, and just gradually fold it over. And that way you avoid too much damage on the outside. It's the old school way of doing it, but let's face it, it's cheap, dolly and hammer, away you go. I think the pneumatic folding machines are somewhere around 600 bucks. You know, you don't really want to be spending that money just to get that done. You can buy other tools that are hammer ones that slide as well. I haven't got one of them because I don't bother, because I just like doing it this way. So I'm just looking at the skin on that edge there, and I don't like that edge, how it's sticking up a little bit. It looks like it's a bit of a squish mark from the press. I'm just going to grab the sander and trim that off a little bit. Actually I might just use the snips to trim that off a bit. There's another one just there. So we'll get rid of those before we fold it over, because once it's folded over, of course, you can't get to that sort of stuff. Just give me a moment to grab my tin snips. Got the left hand and right hand tin snips. Just come along and you can see the proper line it's supposed to be, and we'll just trim that off. Much neater. It's a little bit edgy through there too, it might need the sander to trim that off a bit. Just a little bit here. You can see they're actually dags from the pressing process. Makes it much nicer. Same one on the corner here, there's another one. I didn't see any of those along the bottom, but it must be because of the shape of these edges. Let's get that one out of the way. Okay. Got the door back on the car for the moment. The skin's been temporarily put into place. We haven't locked it right off, but there's something that I want you to watch towards the end of the video that's quite important about how these doors set themselves, so that you don't make the mistake and you can rectify what the problem is. It's got a smaller head and it's got a dome face, so that'll allow me to get into the tight spots along here a little bit easier without damaging the edge of the skin so much. So we come to the round face of the actual return sweep, so we turn the dolly around to get into that edge. We're going back into a return sweep up the top, so I turn the dolly around to get the curl edge to go in there. A little bit at a time, back to a flat edge. Of the smaller head is it allows you to get into these corners nicely, especially up on this top return sweep up here. Sorry camera woman, keep getting in the way. So we've got return sweep up here, so we go back to the round side of the dolly. So I'm still leaving it semi-open, just in case we have a problem when we fit it onto the car. That still allows me to make adjustment if I have to. And then once we figure out that it's going to be locked into position and it's going to be okay, we can pull the door off the car again and come back here and close it right off. Alright, I'm going to spin it around, we'll do the other edge. Same hammer, small head, dome face. I want to come up here and try and lock this top end in a little bit first. When you're hitting the edge of the skin, you're actually hitting it on quite an angle. Make sure you're not belting it from the top too much, because otherwise then you're pushing the skin out on the outside. You've got to make sure your angle is from here. It doesn't take much hammering to actually make it fold. I think we've got a bit too much metal on the end here, so I'm going to trim a bit out. We're trying to fold that over and crush it on top of each other. It's not going to look very good when it's finished. We're going to use the snips just to splade that corner out a little bit, so when it folds over it's a lot neater edge. Again, that's probably part of the pressing material that's left over. It's a bit of excess there. Let's see how we go with that. Still too much metal there. These corner edges, if you find that they're a problem and you haven't got enough metal on the edge of them, it doesn't hurt to put a tack on with a MIG just to build the edge up to make it nice and solid. So I'm trying to make sure that this edge finishes square like it should. So we're just going to tap this edge in here. You can see that's given us that edge there a little bit. I'm going to come from the other side and do the same again. So you can see how we've squared that up and we're kind of getting a join or a corner like we should have. Once we fold this over then there's not too much metal and that'll look nice when it's seam sealed and painted up. So I'm going to go over a bit more on this edge here. To my small head round hammer. Alright, we might see if we can bolt it onto the car and have a look at what's going on. So that skin is quite secure now, even though we have only half folded the edges over. You can see the door's looking how it's supposed to look. You're always going to get little bits around the edge that the dolly might bounce a bit and do a bit of damage, but I'll show you actually how to get those little dents out without actually using filler. Edge of that door there is a little bit kicked over from our work, so we might tap that back a bit. Before we put it on the car, you can see we have a little bit of a curl there. It's curling off on the edge, so we'll give that a little tap back. Same on this edge here. Actually, I think we've got too much material on this edge here, so let's have a look at that one as well. Yeah, you can see here how tight that is, and that's why it's giving us a bit of a curl effect. So we need to trim this one as well. So I'm going to need to lift that out of there a little bit. I'll use my little door skin removal tool. Just let me grab it. You've seen this little fella in the previous video. We're just going to pull this back out again a little bit so we can get the snips in there to give it a bit of a trim. See how much of a pucker of metal there is on that corner, so we have to get rid of that, otherwise when we close all this down it's just trying to push against itself. Tin snips. You don't want to go down all the way to the edge, you just want to clear about 2 mil, so there's a little bit of edge metal left. We'll come in with the left hand snips as well now. I keep getting in the way, don't I, camera woman? No comment. So we're just taking the bulk of that metal out of there so that we can get a fold. That looks a bit better. Let's see how we go this time. Less effort involved, and this all gets seam sealed and filled just like the factory, and when it's all finished anyway. We might have to put a dob of MIG weld on there too and just file it to make it nice when it's finished and all done. So we'll turn that over now. Just look at that edge. Oh, I'll put a little dent in there, but anyway, I'll show you how to get rid of those little dents later. At least it's got a straight line to it now. Same with that edge there. So to me it feels a little bit loose still, so I think we might fold this edge. This one's okay, that feels tight enough to actually guide and judge on the car quarter panel where it lines up. But this one's still loose, you can see that's still moving. So I'm going to close that one off a little bit more. So if you can see that in there, you can see the door frame still moving, the skin's still moving on the door frame. We need that to be reasonably firm, otherwise when it goes on the car it's giving a false reading. So I'll just close that one off a little bit more. The style of hammering when you're folding these over, especially when you're getting close to actually closing it right off, it's not so much a belt, it's more of a push type hammer technique. You get a feel of it when you actually do it yourself. You get a bit of a better feel for it when you can actually feel the hammer and what it's doing. But instead of it being a bang, bang, bang and holding the hammer really tight, you need to let it bounce in your hand a little bit, and it's got a little push to it. It just makes it go nicer. Not gripping the hammer like you know, choking it. You just let it balance in your hand and let the hammer do the work. Alright, we'll bolt this on and see what happens. See how ugly it looks. It'll probably be alright. A couple of seconds. Okay, here we've got the skin on the door frame, as you can see. And we've bolted it back onto the car. We have the front guard on, and we've got the quarter panel, of course, is in place. And we're going to check the alignment of the door, because it will move. And this is a classic example. So if you have a look close down here, you can see our line up on the top edge of the door is fine, and the lines are quite well there. It's lining up here, but it's starting to kick out. And at the bottom of the door, it's kicking out by 5 millimeters. That's a simple fix, and this is what you need to remember. You don't lock the skin in while it's sitting on the bench. You have to put it on the car while the skin is still loose. Match your guard up, match it to the quarter pin. The reason we need to do what we need to do here now is because the skin's loose on the frame. If you watch, I'm going to grab this door at the bottom and push at the bottom and pull at the top, and you can actually hear it moving. And you can see now that we've achieved what we need to achieve. If you lock the skin in, you can't move that, and you have to work backwards and unlock it again to make the door fit. There's no point in trying to, oh, it's all locked in, what do? We put a block of wood there and a hammer here, you know, and give it a belt, and you're distorting the skin and you end up in big trouble. That's a lot of people go down that track because they don't realise that this is the most important part of fitting a door skin, is to make sure it's still loose on the frame, not welded in. Set your gaps, and you can see with the lines of this now, we've got it quite reasonable. There could be a little bit of adjustment once we lock the skin in, but the skin is now ready to be locked in. So I'm going to do that now for you. We use the MIG in this particular case because I don't have a fancy spot welder. And I'm just going to lock that in for you now. So just let me grab my safety equipment. I need my helmet and my gloves. Turn the gas on the welder. You can see down through here that I've actually put some drill holes in so that the MIG can take. We don't have to do the back section of the door to lock it in, then we'll take it off and do the rest of the skin parameter once we've got it on the bench. So I'm also going to use the aluminium plate that we use to back up and fill holes with, because that's a heat sink. I'm going to clamp that on the back of the spot weld when I do the weld. And that will take the heat away from the outside skin, so it will stop the actual deformation of the skin on the outside to a degree, and just make it easier to fix when we're finished. So I'll just clamp this into position. Doesn't need to be too firm, just as long as it hangs on to the aluminium, because the aluminium will take the heat away from the skin anyway. Connect our earth. I've got my air set up so that I can cool the weld as soon as I put the weld in place. And the usual technique with these plug welds, make sure you start on the edge and make sure that the metal joins together. Okay, here we go. That a bit of a wipe off. And you can see we've got our spot weld now. Only takes a little bit of sanding to actually knock that off. So I'm going to go ahead and do these. You don't want to see that in action, but I'll go ahead and finish these off. Then we'll pull the door off and finish off the parameter of the skin and put it back on just to check to make sure it's locked in position. So here we have the final detail on the door skin, finished up on the frame. You can see that we've done the welds down the inside to lock it into position. We've cleaned them all up. They continue all the way underneath the bottom. I've put the door lock back into it because that also need the indication of how the door closes with the door lock in. You can see down through there we've done that edge as well. And we've got it back on the car so that we can line it up to the quarter panel and the front guard. Absolutely imperative that you put it back together and double check it again. So you can see now by the way this door's closing that things have lined up. You can see our edges now are lined up nicely. Got a reasonably nice transition through the edges of the panels. And it's all locked into place because we've welded it all together now. It's an absolute must. Thanks everybody for your support on the channel. This is hopefully going to help you out with your project. We've done the door skin old style, and please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers.